He is not happy that I beat him. Get him.
Yo, Falconer, peek him, peek him, peek him.
Open it, open it, open it, open it.
Nice.
Are you a villager? How? Oh, Jesus Christ! Oh! Oh, Jesus! Are you okay, buddy? He's not okay. That man's dead. Holy crap.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the OPSEAT video podcast. I'm your host, Drew Pujors, the social media director for OPSEAT. We created this podcast to introduce you to successful gamers who have used various strategies to build personal brands and make profit with them. Please make sure to like and subscribe wherever you enjoy your live streams or your podcast. Now, today, we are joined by Twitch partner and streamer Squiiddish. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. How's it going?
It's going fantastically well over here, and we're so happy to have you on. Now, for those that may not know, what would most people recognize you for?
I'd say these days it's probably going to be either Pathfinder, the tabletop RPG. I do a whole lot of that, both on my own channel and on the channel for Paizo, the company that makes it, running a weekly campaign. But a lot of people still know me from a game called Smite way back in the day. It's probably how I got my biggest start on Twitch in the first place. I've jumped around a lot. We've got a magical winding road to the variety we're at now.
Certainly. I mean, there's a lot of streamers on Twitch, but there aren't really a lot of streamers who have spent hundreds of hours in multiple directories.
Yeah. It's been a minute at least. Probably at least
a minute,
I figure.
So, I mean, you've been streaming for thousands and thousands of hours collectively, but we're kind of curious. How did your online content creation begin?
I wasn't even on Twitch. It was before Twitch, back in the days of Justin TV, if there's still people around who remember such a name. But I didn't know about that back at the time. It was YouTube. I imagine I didn't have a super fantastical start, kind of the same as a lot of people that got into this. I was playing a game I enjoyed a lot at the time. It was actually Assassin's Creed Brotherhood.
Oh, wow.
What was that, like a whole decade ago now? Maybe even more than that.
Isn't that crazy?
But, yeah, it's crazy to think about how long it's been when I try to think about the dawn of streaming. But they added a multiplayer mode to this Assassin's Creed game, and I really liked the series. I played the first and the second game, had a lot of fun. I played this multiplayer mode a bit, and it was really, really different. It was a completely unique kind of experience. So I like to learn a lot about games I'm getting into. I like to peruse the internet, various videos or guides or subreddits, other people's thoughts on how to like optimize. And there was very little information about this, and nothing even from other games that was applicable. And I, giant ego brain that I have,
there you go,
figured I was pretty decent at it. So I started trying to fill that void. I started just making YouTube videos for fun. And those of you who might know me, but not me from way back then, will be mind blown to learn that I started with full, straight-faced, like, guides, like pro gameplay guides. Nothing funny, no jokes. It was just, this is how you do Assassin's Creed good. and it was just something I really enjoyed doing. I enjoyed sharing what I had learned in the time I'd been playing the game. It was a very new and developing game. There wasn't like a solid meta or anything. There was just so much room to be creative with it. And that was what really drew me in. That's still where I'm at these days, is things that I can be really creative with. Tabletop games. Friggin' Minecraft, as it's been having a recent crazy resurgence of popularity. That journey's kind of taken me all the way across that. Even when I played MOBAs with like Smite and League for a bit, there's a whole lot you can do in those games to adapt a play style or to do something very against the norm. One of the things I think a lot of old-time Smite people might have known me from was taking characters that were very much supposed to be casters or tanks and just building all melee auto damage on them and just face punch Ymir. Take this tank and get all the big whack crit items and hit people with a huge stick.
There you go. And, you know, it sounds like you're very diversified in, you know, both like platforms and games, but how did you, you know, initially find an audience on Twitch after starting on YouTube with the straight-faced playthroughs?
The straight-faced playthroughs didn't last terribly long. the me came out relatively soon afterwards. That was just the origin. But going over to Twitch, that game Smite did a lot for me. I moved over to Twitch around the time I started getting into that community, and it was really just getting involved. It started with Assassin's Creed the same way, and then moved on to that same thing with Smite, and then Dark Souls after that. But it was about not so much branching out with my game or what I was doing, but branching out to the other people that were playing those games. When I started with Assassin's Creed, it was a new thing. The multiplayer was a brand new experience. There wasn't already a big pre-established community. So me and a couple of the other guys at the time, some I still hang out with now, Shemu36, Hexy Woo, Rainy from way back in the day, Rain and Stormwake. Like we built this community by trying to connect and work together, and that was really what it was all about. It's impossible or almost impossible to just sit down, start a Twitch channel, play video games, and without lottery winning luck find any real success. Like, you gotta work with other people, you gotta build each other up kind of deal. And that was how I started out on Twitch as well with Smite. You know, met a whole lot of new people doing that, got in with a whole ton of new friends that knew way more about everything than I did, and just went from there.
But basically, you know, that's 100% true. It's you know, it sounds like a lot of what's kind of made you successful is building a community and like networking with all these other broadcasters to gain this knowledge piece and community, because it's really hard switching between directories on Twitch.
It is very hard.
Like I said, you have, you know, multiple games where you've played over 100 hours in different directories, and from what it looks like, there's 16 different games where you spent over 100 hours streaming.
That's a slightly larger number than I thought it was going to be, but I'm not terribly surprised, and I don't think I could name more than half of them.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. So just like looking through like Twitch statistics and things like that, I mean, it's hard enough for people to be successful in one directory, but to be continuously successful between, you know, like 16 of them. And, you know, so going through that list of the games that you've played, there are even so many that come close to, you know, like 97 hours, 95 hours. Definitely a round of applause due for that. It's incredible. Now, so did this start as like a creative outlet, or was it always kind of something that you might have just wanted to replace the traditional job with down the line?
It was definitely a creative outlet. For the first few years that I was making content on YouTube, and even after I'd switched to Twitch for a while, like I had a day job. I was out doing something else. I was selling cell phones.
I was doing the same thing. Yep.
Yeah. It was a weird amount of people did for some reason. I don't know. There seems to be a lot of weird overlap to the cell phone industry, but yeah, it definitely was just for fun. It did not even occur to me when I started making the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood guides that there was even money to be had in this, because this was a little over a decade ago at this time. This was before all of the PewDiePies and the Ninjas of the world and the Markipliers started emerging with these massive communities and income streams. It was just for fun. And I, in a lot of ways, just got really lucky getting on board at the right time to grow with it, to realize that it is something that you can build a career out of. I mean, it's a lot of effort. It's definitely a very tall order. But it didn't start shifting that way for 5-6 years probably after I've been creating content, just because I enjoyed creating content.
Was there like any telltale moment where you realized that, you know, this could actually replace the traditional job?
Oh yeah, my Verizon store closed, so
you just kind of had to go and do it.
They shut down. And so there were only, I think, 6 or 7 of us that worked there. It was a little town in Idaho, and one of like 4 Verizon stores for maybe 10 times that many people. It wasn't that small. But when it closed down, and all of us suddenly didn't have our normal day jobs, that was kind of the point when I looked at Twitch had been growing. I'd been partnered on Twitch for a year or two, and I'd started to reach enough saturation and reach out to enough of an audience and a consistent audience with this community I'd been developing that I thought, well, I could look for another job all of a sudden. It was very sudden too. We had no warning about this at all.
Oh, wow.
I could look for something else, or I could really just double down and focus on this streaming thing. And that was the first time that I'd really thought, I think I can do this at this point. I think after these years, I've put in enough man hours and I've built enough of a community and I have enough people who enjoy the content I'm putting out. And especially with Twitch, which is much, much easier to do as a career than YouTube is, I feel.
Especially with like, the live aspect now, because even probably with the 5 or 6, years that you've been on it, with, bits, subscriptions, things like that, that weren't really necessarily available until YouTube live streaming became a thing even later. Right.
Yeah, YouTube at the time, back then when I switched over to Twitch, which was very shortly after Justin TV became Twitch, it was just ad revenue. That was it. YouTube was ad revenue and external channels, so like merchandise or like a Patreon or something.
Yeah.
I never wanted to set up a Patreon, and I didn't have any artistic skills whatsoever either, so I had very little merchandising or anything. So YouTube was almost literally just ad revenue. So it is a lot easier to do with Twitch, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we're happy to see that you're still creating content on Twitch. I mean, currently, we heard, that you're probably going to be switching, games at least for a little bit. Are you excited about, what's going to be coming out with like WoW Classic?
I hate myself for this. I tried so hard to stay off WoW Classic. I had a dream inside me for this last 6 or 8 months since it's been announced that I wasn't going to touch it.
Mm-hmm.
I have streamed very little WoW. I don't think it's on that 100-hour.
No, it is not on that 100-hour list. No.
It was just a game that I played largely before I was even streaming.
Yeah.
Or early on. Way too much of the story. Basically, every actual WoW player has. I'm sure I did this too much, and it was a mistake, and I didn't want to get back into it. But man, I'm so excited to play it again. I haven't actually touched it yet at all. Right after this is going to be my first go at that.
There you go.
But even beyond that, there is a lot of interesting stuff that is coming as well. Particularly, I'm sure Borderlands 3 is one that a lot of people are very ready for. You a Borderlands guy?
It's been years. I've been wanting to play the third one. I need to like do another playthrough of the second. I'm excited, but I'm not trying to get my hopes up too much. But I know it's going to be a good time when it comes out. Kind of like, Halo Master Chief Collection. Not trying to get my hopes up, but I'm still excited.
Exactly. I feel you. Well, you got time. If you got time to go Borderlands 2 playthrough. Not a lot, but some. But yeah, that's on the horizon. There is a lot coming forward because we're getting into that end of the year season where it's just going to be game after game after game.
It's a good time to be a streamer.
Big time to be any kind of a gamer, but yeah, a streamer too, and of course it's useful.
Now, out of curiosity, with the audience that you have through all the different directories, do you feel like they have a lot of say in the games that you play, or is it the research that you do through all these games that kind of help you decide and pick for the audience?
It's around 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
People build an audience around a whole lot of different things, and I think a lot of my channel and what my audience enjoys is something that I enjoy. There's a lot to be had, and a lot of audiences, a lot of creators do a very good job with dragging themselves or forcing themselves through games they're not having a great time with, either to directly make fun of it or just because it's popular and it's what they do. But I don't usually go out of my way to play stuff I don't think I'm gonna like, even if it's something the audience has expressed a lot of interest in, because I don't know how entertaining it will actually be.
Yeah.
I am definitely a streamer, not like a full actor, and I can only pretend to be enjoying an experience for so far. So largely it's what I want to play, what seems like it'll be fun. But there are definitely notable times that they've brought something to my attention or asked for something that I'd never intended to play or ever even heard of, or even one glorious example was adamantly opposed to, tried it, and it was some of the most fun times we've all had on the channel, like Undertale.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted me to play Undertale so bad. I touched it very briefly. They had a little free demo of it that was just the beginning, and I had no idea what the game was supposed to be about or any of that, and the beginning is very slow.
Yeah.
Honestly. I didn't like it at all. So I fought it for like 2 or 3 months. I didn't want to touch that game. It looked dumb, didn't seem like anything I was interested in, didn't fit anything that I normally stream. But they wanted it. They really, really wanted me to play Undertale, and after I finally played it, I saw why, because that was an amazing game. And a fantastic experience for a stream, because it's pretty rare to get completely blind Undertale experiences at this point, because like that's so saturated now, and everyone, even if they haven't played it, knows
basically what happens.
About it. Yeah,
because once you get past like all the reading and everything like that, and then like the problem solving skills need to be applied, it's an interesting game. For anybody who hasn't checked it out, highly recommend it.
And it's so different. It is really unique, and it's easy to be one of those things that there is so much support for it that you inherently almost have like that automated pushback, because like, wow, I hear about Undertale all the time. I never want to look at this game again. I don't want to hear these words spoken to me, but trust that it is in fact worth it.
So out of all these games that you've played, whether it's been, Minecraft, Terraria, or even Undertale, which has been like your personal favorite?
Personal favorite as like a game experience. There's gonna be 2. I'm gonna put 2.
Okay.
Terraria, you mentioned. I really, really loved that game. That's definitely on that, I'm sure, 100-hour plus list for Terraria, because just one playthrough of that was well over 100 hours. But not only do I love the combination of creativity and options that game gives you, but a lot of the other stuff I stream is Dark Souls, those kind of games. I love big boss battles. I love progressing and learning their patterns, their mechanics, what options they have, and how to deal with all of this, how to manipulate a boss to be able to overcome that challenge. And Terraria really combines like Dark Souls bosses and Minecraft.
Yep.
two very different, but probably my favorite general just categories of experience. And on top of that, most of that time that I spent playing Terraria was with a mod called Calamity, which is a huge game overhaul that adds like 3 or 4 times more bosses on a difficulty scale that is just way beyond the base game. I definitely had at least one full 8-hour stream of just trying to beat one boss in that Calamity mod. And I don't even think that's anything Dark Souls ever did to me. I don't think any of the Souls games or any of their content, which are obviously known at this point for the challenge, stopped me for like a full stream. But some of these freaking Terraria mod bosses I'm just throwing my face at for 8 hours. And that was great, because it is also that 100-hour plus experience, the really long-term thing you can grow a community with.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that's big enough and has its own community that it does. I don't know, how do I'm trying to figure out how to word this properly. It makes new friends. There's people there. There's people there to meet. There's other awesome content creators doing a lot with Terraria. It is still, even though the game has had nothing come out for years for it, it is still an incredibly active community.
And there's everything from like speedrunners for certain challenges for the game and things like that. Lots of different ways to get involved with it.
And as a creator myself, that brings along a whole other avenue of entertainment. So because of all of that stuff other people are creating, all that other content that is there, all those other awesome people doing the work. But the other one that I said I had 2 is a much smaller game. I think it was maybe 1.5 streams. It might only have been a single one. But it's a game called The Sexy Brutale, and it's by Tequila Works. You might have heard of Rhyme. That's, I think,
I've heard of Rhyme.
Game. Yeah, that's their more well-known game.
Okay.
But it's that team, and it's a much shorter there's no real room to grow it. You play through it once, and you've experienced the whole thing. Similar to Rhyme, largely. It's just a one-time, maybe 8 to 12 hour experience. Maybe not even that. But that was the best, just up there with Undertale. Just totally blind experience that I've had just with my community. And it had the advantage, I put it over Undertale, because I didn't know anything about Undertale. Literally everybody else did. So, I mean, my entire chat, my whole community, they are all familiar with this. I'm playing through it. They know what's coming. They know what's around every corner, and they're excited for things that are coming that they already know about, just to see the reactions. But Sexy Brutale is a lot lesser known. It's a lot less popular. Almost nobody knew anything about it. So it was kind of this collaborative journey where it was the whole chat and myself equally blind going through reacting to the entirety of that game, which is something that is incredibly rare on Twitch and YouTube when you have a game that a large portion of the audience isn't already going to be familiar with, especially if you play a lot of stuff that's more popular. But that game I absolutely also recommend to anybody that's a fan of, I guess it would technically be a puzzle game, but it's really hard to describe that experience without just, kind of throwing the whole thing away, kind of and ruining it all.
Yeah. What was the name of that game again?
It's called The Sexy Brutale by Tequila Works, and it's the weirdest title. The only thing I hate about it is trying to recommend a game called The Sexy Brutale to people. Yeah. But don't let the name put you off. It's a puzzler about a bunch of people getting murdered in a casino.
Awesome.
That's about as much as I can say without getting too into it, without starting to give away part of what makes the experience so special. It's like Undertale. You can only tell someone so much about Undertale while still recommending it.
And it's kind of just, just go and play the game. Have fun.
Yeah, just do it. Just go do it. It's like $10. Just go do it.
And with all these, like, the years of experience, just switching between directories and playing these games and being able to have recommendations, do you have, any tips for people that, really want to be a variety streamer? They don't want to be like Ninja, the best Fortnite player. They want to be, adequate at a couple different games.
Well, I mean, biggest experience, or biggest advice I'm going to have from experience, rather, is just don't go into it trying to make, like, I want to make this my career. I want to be a variety streamer. I want to be like Carnage or Lethal Frag or Gothalion or any of those other big variety streamers. It's the same advice you get to any streamer. Do it because you want to do it, because you enjoy it, like, to start as a creative outlet. But especially with variety, it is incredibly hard to grow because you don't have one big game like Ninja with Fortnite that is just going to have its own constant influx of community. You don't have that. It's exponentially harder to try to develop, especially if you're just starting out from the ground level, because people are going to find you through a directory that is linked to a game. Like, that is just how you get discovered. That's how it happens. That's where 90% of new viewers who are going to come check out your stream or your videos, that's just a fact. And those people are in that directory because they like that game. So when you stop playing that game, most of them aren't going to stick around because they came, to watch that game.
Yep.
It is basically handicapping yourself. But that said, don't take it that I'm saying it's a bad idea, because obviously I have a lot more fun with variety streaming. I did start largely as a single game streamer. YouTube definitely. I just did Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. And when I came over to Twitch, I almost exclusively did Smite. And it was miserable. It's complete. I have no idea how, like, Ninja does it. I don't know how you can. Like, maybe I've just never loved a game like he loves Fortnite. But I don't
understand it either. Just the level of burnout that would come from clicking on the same things over and over.
It doesn't matter how much you like the game. Like, I did really like Smite. That was why I got so into it. But playing it for 8 hours a day, no matter how much you want to, because you have to, burnout's exactly correct. You're just going to stop enjoying that. It's absolutely unavoidable. So variety makes your job way harder, but way more fun. And just being ready for that is the biggest advice I have. Like you're almost immune to the lucky break that people can get from just hitting the right game at the right time and just taking off. You're inoculated against that because you're constantly switching. It is going to be a very, very slow grind for you as a creator, but you're gonna love it for so much longer and so much more.
I actually love the way you just, laid that out because, inoculated from, that one lucky break is, I've never heard it put that way, that's incredible.
But I mean, from my experience, it's not wrong. Because even if you do, I had one notable stream, Dark Souls 2, back in the day after I'd definitely become Variety. I honestly don't remember if I got hosted. I don't think I did. I think I just happened to miss when some huge streamer, like maybe Peeve or someone, went offline, and I was just the next guy in the directory.
Yeah.
So I had like 1,400 viewers playing Dark Souls 2, which was, and it wasn't like, it was only like my second or third Dark Souls 2 stream. The game was kind of new. It wasn't my main game at all. It is huge spike. And because I'm Variety, I mean, at that point I could have said, well, I'm a Dark Souls 2 streamer now, and just started. If I was doing it just for the money and just for the career, I could just, it's my job. I'm Dark Souls 2, played exclusively that, been a Dark Souls content creator. I don't want to do that. So I kept, to my Variety stream, I kept doing what I told my community I was going to be doing. And I mean, obviously I got a decent amount of follows and some subscriptions from that, but I didn't maintain a quarter of what I would have if I just would have been main gaming Dark Souls, because those people would all come to me because their Dark Souls streamer went offline and they wanted to watch more Dark Souls. So when I stopped playing Dark Souls, they just went to the next person.
Yep.
You're not gonna get an instant big break as a Variety streamer. It's just gonna happen.
And it's amazing that you've even without all those big breaks and everything like that, and just sticking true to who you are as a content creator. It's amazing to see, just continual success over years and years. And, over this many years and this much time on Twitch, how would you say the platform has changed from when you first jumped on?
Well, it's definitely a lot bigger. And everything that comes along with that. I mean, it's the obvious observation. It's like a cop-out answer, but it really is. That's the biggest thing. Twitch has become much more mainstream. When I started streaming on Twitch, most people weren't aware of it. I was barely aware of it. That was why I'd moved over. It was a niche thing, even among people that were already watching their favorite YouTube creators or already engaged in a community for World of Warcraft or League of Legends or whatever. Twitch just wasn't big. It was still coming out of its infancy. Streaming wasn't big. And now, since it's really broken through, it's hit that point where I'd say if you play games, you've probably heard of Twitch, even if you don't watch it. That wasn't true even a couple of years ago. So the fact that there are so many new people constantly creating their own channels and trying to hit the dream, there's hundreds of people daily that are now signing up to this site. The experience is a lot different. It used to be, I guess, almost a site-wide community, just because the site was so small. I feel like the streamers that were on there, you kind of knew all the names because there weren't that many.
Yeah.
But it's just a platform now. And that feels really dark. Like, it feels like I'm saying that as this woe is the end of the world thing, and that's not really how I mean it. But it's just, I kind of don't mean that any further than exactly what it is. Twitch is sort of just a platform now. There's very little of the, like, I don't know, community identity I feel like the site used to have. I mean, I feel like an old boomer complaining about walking to school both ways. Like, I don't know. It sounds more like a complaint than I mean it to be. But it's just an observation of how it's changed.
Definitely.
It really is just a collection of a whole bunch of people doing their own thing. It is much harder. What I said back at the beginning when he asked how I got started, how I grew, and I said I made all those connections, work with a lot of other content creators and a lot of other streamers. you can't even hardly do that anymore because everyone's already either got their own groups or they're doing their own thing, and there's I feel like less opportunity, even though there's hundreds of times more people on the site, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
It's a lot harder to make those meaningful connections.
a lot more saturation on the platform, and being on the platform for about 4 to 5 years myself, I definitely see that. I definitely can recognize it. That now it's, are you a streamer? Are you on Mixer? Are you on Twitch? Like it's more of just now everybody just asks, do you stream?
Yeah, it's exactly instead of what is streaming.
Yeah, I got
the old classic back in the day. Whenever it would ever come up with the family or the girlfriend's parents or whatever, it's like, oh, what do you do?
How would you explain that back in the day?
I just said I was in video production, honestly, and no further clarification unless they really asked for it.
That's pretty good, actually.
And usually they didn't ask follow up because they were just asking for politeness sake. And they're like, oh, that's pretty neat.
There you go.
Like, yeah, I got a green screen, some photo lights and stuff. Yeah, video production.
Yeah, I mean, at the root, that's what it is, just live YouTube.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, you could just say like streaming these days, and everyone knows what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Like even non-gamers, even just regular people, you can say I stream, and they know what that means now. Like that's the saturation we've reached now. Normal people have heard of Twitch.
It's kind of a good thing, like an amazing thing for those that have gotten past that saturation curve and things like that. But maybe during the couple of years that you've been streaming, maybe things didn't necessarily go the way you had hoped. If you don't mind sharing, what would you say has been like your biggest learning experience or most memorable failure in your path as an online personality?
I think that's definitely moving to variety. That was the biggest thing I learned. The biggest failure I had was trying to convince myself to be a one game streamer, or that I could be a one game streamer, because it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
And it was incredibly visible in my content as well. I thought if I just forced myself to stick to, it was Smite at the time, and stick to one game because it performed well for me and because it gave me more of an audience and because there was a bigger number under my channel when I was streaming, that it would be better in the long run for me. That would be, for a career perspective, that was what I should be doing. And it really, really wasn't. And the more I forced myself to do it, the more I didn't want to do it, the less I enjoyed the game I was playing. And that comes through in your content. It absolutely does, no matter how hard you try. And while I was, this is I don't know how numbers you want to get, but when I'm back in Smite with several hundred viewers at a time, I had 1/3 of the actual subscriber numbers and the support that I have now with 1/3 of the viewers. Mm-hmm. Because the people that are there, here's the shining light for all the doom and gloom I cast over variety streaming earlier. When you are a main game streamer with Fortnite or whatever, the vast majority of your audience is there to see your game you're playing, because that's there in that directory. They just want to see some Fortnite. When you're variety, your whole community is there to see you.
Yep.
It's not, they'll follow you across games. They'll come enjoy these very different experiences with you. You may have a smaller community. You will have a smaller community, but it is your community. It's not Fortnite's community that you just have a little part of. And that comes across in all of the best possible ways. So that easily biggest thing I've learned, biggest mistake I made streaming was just trying to stay monogamous to this particular MOBA. It was a terrible decision. And I would say it almost put me off streaming entirely. Pretty close to doing. I had considered for a while near the end of Smite just quitting streaming because I honestly hated it so much at the end of that, at the end before I moved on to doing other things.
Yeah, and we're happy we stuck with, we're happy you stuck with it and that you're able to continue making this content. And thank goodness it's 2019 where monogamy isn't always perfect anymore.
You do what you want. Ain't here to judge. You do you.
Yeah. We're talking about gaming directories here, Paul.
Yeah, of course.
By the way, 2019. All right. Now, For those that have been listening or watching, where can more people find, information about what you do or things that you're involved in, or where to even find you streaming?
Easiest way to find me is things with /Squiiddish on the end. Twitch.tv/Squiiddish, Twitter.com/Squiiddish, Discord.gg/Squiiddish, and if you're just listening, it's SQUIIDDISH, which the vast majority of my friends still get wrong most of the time because, to be fair, it is a really weird spelling. But one of those three connections, Twitter, Twitch, Discord, are the places where basically everything I'm doing comes across. But if you are like an RPG or a tabletop fan and want just that side of it, or if you're interested in a Pathfinder RPG, which just kind of recently got a second edition, twitch.tv/official Paizo, Paizo, is the channel for the creators of that game, and we stream there every Monday with our recurring campaign.
There you go.
That's the one I look forward to the most each week. I love tabletop.
And I certainly look forward to actually checking out that. I didn't know that was a thing actually. I like watching people, basically like tell stories, come up with stories, and just like play their games in groups of people. So campaigns are always a good time for me to watch. Always.
Yeah, they've tried to make a pretty big pile of content on their own official branded channel now, with having a couple of partnered streamers like myself. There's one that does a Starfinder campaign as well, coming out on various days of the week. And they have, I think it's on Thursdays, they have a first party campaign with the Paizo employees running Pathfinder 2nd Edition. They have a Geek and Sundry campaign going on right now. You may know them from,
Yes.
I don't know, Critical Role. So it's something they've really been branching out to, and it's been a lot of fun. I feel like the tangential to that, the longer I've been streaming, the more of a dirty casual I've become from giving these straight pro-level PvP Assassin's Creed guides to mainstreaming a MOBA to, I don't know, just around roll some dice with my buddies on Mondays.
There you go.
They're scrolls, but they only mostly matter. Like,
there you go. Now, we gotta ask: Are you planning on heading to any events soon where people can come and meet you in person, like maybe TwitchCon in San Diego this year?
I wish I was going to TwitchCon. I live in Florida, man. I wish I was on the
is a
opposite
long
side of
flight,
the country
yeah.
from that. It's a long go. I haven't actually been to any TwitchCons yet, but I did try to hit up a lot of things like PAXs when I can. We were at PAX East this year. We'll actually be at PAX Unplugged in December if you're heading up there. That's much more of a niche market, I'm aware. But I've been more and more to the tabletop the longer I've gone. We were at PaizoCon out in Seattle, was my cross-country con adventure earlier. The only one I know in the future we're definitely going to is PAX Unplugged in December. We're going to try to make it out to PAX West next year, because I haven't done that a few times. And I feel like I'm legally obligated to attend a TwitchCon at some point in my life. I haven't yet, but I mean,
it's fun.
You understand? Is it you've been to any PAXs? You got any comparison? Because I just don't know what to expect.
I've been to PAX South, PAX East. If you like tabletop, you'll probably enjoy PAX South more than PAX East.
Really?
PAX South is, I'd say, about a third of the floor layout is cards and tabletop and everybody playing dice and everything like that. I mean, like Texas has a pretty big market for that. Now PAX East is more like game releases and like where you have like Facebook Gaming and Oculus and everybody displaying their major, technological,
a huge
releases.
Facebook gaming display. PAX East is actually, fun fact, this last one was where I found you guys. That was at your little OPC booth you had over at PAX East. That was where I got in contact.
That's fantastic. I actually wish I was more at the booth. I probably would have met you over there. But yeah, I was at PAX East last year. But I run around with like a camera. I'm responding to the social media and everything all day. But yeah, if you ever go to any of those events or anything like that, I'll probably see you at some of those events because I try to go to all of them. So I will definitely see you around at one of these. But
it's always the goal to go to as many as possible, but then there's always so much other stuff happening.
Yeah,
and especially as my sole actual career at the moment is the streaming. Every time you go to a con, you're not streaming for a week.
Yep.
So it's like you gotta I gotta ration it. I can't hit all of them as much as I would love to.
Mm-hmm. Because you come back and, unfortunately, streamers can't really take that much of vacations. It's one of those, it's nice. It would be a lot easier, probably, when variety streaming, people are there for you and not the game. But, yeah, you can't take, just because you're streaming and that's your, full-time job, it's kind of hard if you want to take a vacation every month.
Yeah, no, definitely that would be too much. I think variety streaming, you're right, does help a lot because I have a community that is a lot more tightly knit, a lot more familiar with each other, and my content that'll still largely be there when I get back. If you're doing a single game and you're subsisting off of a game, disappearing for a week can sink a channel.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen. But yeah, it really is just an unfortunate byproduct of being a streamer. But I mean, every job has its pros and cons, and for the humongous pile of pros that I get to stream and hang out with a bunch of people and play video games most of the day I'll take the con that I don't get vacations too often. That's an all right trade for me.
There you go. That's not bad. Well, honestly, Squiiddish, it's been absolutely a pleasure having you on the OPSEAT video podcast. We look forward to seeing you around on Twitch, whether you consider it a platform or a way of life.
Yeah, kind of both at this point, I suppose.
There you go. But yeah, we look forward to everything. Hopefully WoW Classic goes pretty well for you.
I almost hope it doesn't, man. I can't get into this again. I can't do this again. But it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for having me over here.
Truly, truly. Our pleasure. Thank you.